welcome back to another vlog here on our channel. I'm so glad that you're here today to join us. I am going to share about my pregnancy with the twins and kind of answer a few different questions that we have. If you see me looking down, it's because I have notes on my computer of all the things that I want to share. Also, the boys are napping, so hopefully I can get this done before they wake up. So I've been asked numerous times about my pregnancy, of how it went along, what were some highlights and different things like that we went through. And so now that I've had a chance to sit down and kind of write out what I wanted to share, I will be sharing that with you. So some of the questions that I had were, how did we find out about having twins? And what were our reactions? How was being pregnant during a pandemic different than my expectations of pregnancy? And any symptoms or cravings that I had. So I want to start by going back to December 25th, 2019. I woke up that morning with the most vivid dream that I was pregnant, which at that point, I was probably knowing my cycle about a week and a half away from actually being able to know if I was pregnant or not. But it was so vivid and real that morning I took a pregnancy test, which was negative. And so that afternoon we went to my family's, and my little sister announced that she was pregnant. And immediately I had tons of different emotions and feelings, but I put on my best happy face. And secretly deep down, I was sad because I wasn't pregnant and she was. I was jealous, and there was just a lot of different emotions that kind of went along with that, which honestly are okay, and we've worked through them. And honestly, if I had not found out that I was pregnant later on, I think we still would have been best friends and all of that. But at that point, just of where I was at emotionally, it was really difficult. The next day I was supposed to go skeet shooting with John. However, I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to leave the house. So I sent him, and I rage cleaned my house. I have never felt rage in my life. If you know me, I don't get angry or anything, but I was super angry. I cleaned my entire house, took Christmas down, threw the Christmas tree out the front door, so that when John came home, he was like, uh-oh, something is wrong. He came in the house, and I basically just was bawling. I basically screamed and cried all day and just like released a bunch of emotions, and I felt better after that. Probably the 27th or the 28th, I can't remember exactly which day, I for some reason felt I needed to take... You're awake. Around the 28th or 27th or 28th of December, I decided I needed to take another pregnancy test, even though deep down I knew it was too early. I took one test, and there was the faintest line. So what did I do? I took to Handy Dandy Facebook and joined a Facebook group for people who have what are called line eyes, which means you can't quite tell if it's real or not. And they were able to confirm that it was potentially really possibly positive. And I basically got home from work that night, and I went downstairs and I said, so I think I'm pregnant. And he responded with, okay, cool. And we kind of just left it at that. I explained, I don't actually see a line, like I see it, but I don't see it, like I don't know if it's there or not. And so over the next couple days, I took quite a few pregnancy tests. I think they all were progressively getting more positive. I had one digital come back as negative, and I just didn't know how to feel about it. So a couple days later, I took another one, and it was positive. So we booked an appointment with my family doctor, who confirmed it was indeed positive. We were pregnant. I was so excited and needed to tell people, so we told our family later that week. We told John's family. We met in a parking lot and gave them, I did a letter board for them that said the newest Riders fan joining the family, September 2020. And there was a positive pregnancy test there. And then we told my family, and I gave them a letter board saying something, and then it had the pregnancy test. My mom flipped. It was great. and we were excited. We started buying things off Marketplace. Some people may think that was premature. However, if you find a good deal, you go for it. So we found a beautiful crib for like $40 used. We went and got it, and John eagerly set it up in our spare room, which was going to be our nursery. And it was a reminder of the journey that we were on. Looking back, a few things started to make sense, even now as I look back. During December, I started to feel really gross and like nauseous and tired, and I just assumed it was from a change in diet. October and November of that year, I had been eating dairy-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, processed foods-free, and caffeine-free. Then December hit and the Christmas baking came out, and all of that went out the window. So I started to feel pretty crappy. And I was emotional, and I just assumed it was from my IUD removal. I didn't really like connect it till after the fact that those were all signs of pregnancy. I kept having dreams that we were having twins. I had like 3 or 4 dreams before our first ultrasound, and on the way to my ultrasound, we were driving to the hospital. I remember sitting in the truck, and we were talking about how my best friend was getting married and I was being a bridesmaid, and her wedding was about 4 weeks before my due date. And I was like, watch, we're gonna go in and I'm either going to be further along than we think I am, or there's twins and I won't be able to go either way. And I'm gonna leave that there while I go and get up some tiny humans who are napping. So I went into my ultrasound, and at first it was just me and the tech. The tech had the screen facing towards her. She wouldn't show me anything, and she does all of the measurements, checks the heartbeat, all of that, and then she goes and gets John. And when she left to go get John, she had turned the screen to me. She had cleared it of any images, so it just had my personal details like my name and my address and things like that. And part of me was being nosy, and part of me was actually just checking to make sure my information was correct, because 9 times out of 10 something's not right. I noticed as I came to a couple lines where it's listing the type of pregnancy, and it said number of fetuses, and it said 2. Now instantly I got a lump in my throat. I felt like I was gonna vomit, and I'm pretty sure I like wanted to pass out. 2 fetuses. I was like, of course there is. Of course there is. So she comes back in with John, and she puts the ultrasound on part of my stomach and goes, all right, so here's one baby's heartbeat and here's the other. You're having twins. And at this point I'm like, okay, And basically everything after that is a blur. I remember getting into the truck and going, we're having twins, and feeling like I was going to pass out or vomit and or whatever. I was all over the place. We had to run a couple of errands, and I just remember sitting in the truck and be like, what? I had so many emotions going through my head. I was excited, I was terrified, I was happy, I was sad. I was trying to process all of these, also while wondering what John was thinking, what was going through his head. And honestly, he says, at that point, there was 2. I couldn't do anything about it. So we had called all of our family and all of his family, and we had told them. And then we went to my parents, and I walked into the kitchen and I gave my mom the ultrasound, and she starts screaming and I start crying. Something that's not talked about a lot in multiples pregnancies is the emotional toll. I dealt with a lot of grief through the first couple weeks of finding out we had twins. I was really sad. I was sad that the image I had of having a perfect pregnancy with a perfect home birth and being super easy, having one baby to take care of, what my family looked like. All of my expectations had revolved around one baby at this point, and there was two. And I couldn't wrap my head around what that would look like. I instantly knew things were different. I knew my pregnancy was now deemed high risk and there would be a lot more potentials for issues. I knew I wasn't allowed to have, or I wasn't advised to have a home birth, and I was actually probably going to need a C-section. I knew I now had to figure out how to care for two babies, and all of a sudden it was this shift of, I don't think I can do this anymore. I was so excited for the one, and all of a sudden you told me I'm having two. What in the world? I felt really guilty about being upset that there was twins. I felt bad knowing that there were so many other people that wanted a baby and I was having two and I didn't really want them. But I really worked through those emotions. I spent a lot of time praying, a lot of time figuring out like what it meant. I did a lot of research on twins. I talked to a lot of twin moms. I joined some Facebook support groups, which really helped me feel better and to prepare myself. So, most of my first trimester was uneventful, apart from finding out I was having twins. I dealt with nausea, but I was never really super sick. I was exhausted and I slept a lot. I hated most foods. I only ate super like bland foods like chicken and rice and bananas and crackers. I did crave a Taco Bell Supreme Crunch Wrap, which I never actually got. And I was definitely very bloated and emotional all the time. But apart from that, I felt fine and like nothing crazy happened. I didn't turn the toilet seat blue. Research it. It's a legit symptom. And then COVID hit. And everything that I had just organized in my head and like came to peace with having twins went out the window because overnight everything changed. John was no longer allowed at any of my doctor's or midwife's appointments. Almost 95% of those appointments became virtual. He wasn't allowed at any of my ultrasounds, and hospital regulations were changing so quickly we didn't even know what things were going to look like. Was he going to be allowed to be there? Was he not? There were so many different questions and things that we didn't even know how to process. I also started to work from home because no one really knew the effects of COVID and pregnancy and what kind of a risk it was. And working in hospitality, we decided, along with my midwife, it was probably best if I worked from home for a while. So I did. And I kind of started to get lonely. I think one of the things when you're pregnant you kind of want is to spend time with people and like have people know that you're pregnant. Sounds kind of weird. Not know that I'm pregnant, but like I wanted to be able to go into the Toys R Us and go do my baby registry and different things like that, which we did, but it wasn't quite the same. So there was a few things like that that were kind of different. My second trimester hit and I started to feel so much better. I was still exhausted. My weirdest symptom was anytime I slept or sat down, my legs instantly started to feel like pins and needles. I had postnasal drip that kept me up all night, and I was hungry all the time. I also had Braxton Hicks, and I finally started to feel the faint fluttery kicks of the babies. John started to reach my stomach, and they would love to kick and kind of just react to him. They eventually turned from light little kicks into full-blown wrestling matches. At my 20-week ultrasound, we discovered that baby B, so when you have a twin pregnancy, baby A is closest to your cervix and baby B is not. They name them right from your first ultrasound, and then they never actually switch spots, so as you go through your pregnancy, baby A will always be baby A. They might rotate a little bit, but they're not going to completely switch spots. So baby B had developmental cord insertion, and possible vasa previa. So developmental cord insertion, a normal baby's placenta has the umbilical cord in the middle of it, and the placenta supplies the baby with all of the nutrients that it needs through the umbilical cord. Vasa previa is where your umbilical cord isn't a solid cord, but it's more loose blood vessels that can run alongside or around various places in the cervix. So in my case, baby B's cord was attached to the side, and all of the blood vessels were all around it. They actually weren't like in it. It was like kind of spread out. And they were potentially across the opening of the cervix. We wouldn't know until closer to what that would look like, but it was decided that I would need to see a specialist because developmental cord insertion means that there could be some serious issues and bleeds. So it meant that I needed to see a specialist and would possibly most likely have to deliver via C-section. Everyone kept asking if we knew what we were having, and we knew that we were having a gender reveal. However, everyone asked what I thought I was having, and I thought I was having boys. I had had dreams, again, of having 2 boys. So deep down, I wanted a boy and a girl or 2 girls. However, John wanted a boy and a girl or 2 boys. And a few days later, after that ultrasound, our friends threw us a drive-in virtual gender reveal where some of our local friends came and parked in our driveway, and it was filmed and recorded Facebook Live for some friends, and we stood in our field and popped some beautiful confetti cannons, and out of both of them came blue. That beautiful baby blue. And I put on my happy face, but deep down I was kind of sad. I struggled with gender disappointment. I was a little bit disappointed, but as I started to look at a few different things and found some really cute baby clothes and different things like that, I actually started to get really excited for having boys, and I was excited that they got to grow up together, which was a huge thing. Once we figured out that we were having boys, we were able to finally pick names. I really wanted to have their names picked so that when I was pregnant for that last trimester, I could talk to them, and that's who they were. So we picked Avery and Ezra. We thought that those names sounded so great together. Avery was the only boy name up until that point that we had fallen in love with and liked. We had disagreed on so many names. It was the only name that John possibly considered on my list. And then one day he was going to work at 3 a.m, and I rolled over and went, "Hey, what do you think of Ezra?" And he goes, "Sure." And I was like, "Great, we picked names." And so he came home later that day and I was like, "So it's Avery and Ezra." And he's like, "Okay, if you say so." And so Avery Peter is named after John's brother, who is honestly John's best friend. And then Ezra Lyman is named after my biological dad, who passed away a couple years ago. So both boys have their middle names named after family, which was something that's super important to us. Both John and I's middle names are after family, so we thought that that would be something we could pass along. I had started seeing an MFM, which was my specialist doctor, and I had to drive about just over an hour to go to these appointments. I was going every 4 to 6 weeks to go and have ultrasounds and meet with them and just kind of see what the placenta and the cords were doing to make sure that we weren't having any issues. And at one of my appointments around the 28-week mark, I stopped at Starbucks as I always did, and as I was walking out with my drink, I tripped and fell. I landed on my stomach and I instantly started to panic. I called my midwife and she told me I could either drive home and have her check me out, or I could go to the ER, which I was right beside. So I went to the ER and they sent me right up to maternity and labor and delivery, and they monitored me for the next 8 hours. While I was there, the specialists all came and all the nurses and everyone to make sure I was okay. I was having mild contractions, so they wanted to make sure that they weren't increasing in severity or getting closer together. But both babies were super happy and content, and they kept kicking off their monitors, which made it really hard to monitor. And finally, the contractions were slow and erratic, and I was released. At all these appointments that I was going to with the care of my midwives, we decided that a C-section was the best route for me and the babies. At this point, both babies were head down. However, when I actually delivered, one was breeched and one was transverse, which, if we had known that, I would have had to have a C-section anyways. Can you get down? So it wasn't my ideal birth plan, but I knew that it was the best choice for all of us. It was the way that we knew we wouldn't have any issues, and being the person I am and the planner I am, it was really nice to know exactly when I was having the babies. By the third trimester, I felt like a whale. I felt so large and uncomfortable. My back hurt, my neck hurt, my stomach hurt, it was itchy, everything was uncomfortable. So I wanted to make sure we had our maternity photos done early in case I ended up going into labor, as that tends to happen with multiple pregnancies. Braxton Hicks had picked up quite frequently, and I actually had to leave work early due to numerous appointments. I was having appointments almost every day, Monday to Friday. I went for chiropractor, massage, my OB, my specialists, my midwives. I also had iron infusion, steroid shots, blood work, and I think that's mostly covers it. I felt like I was having appointments every day. So taking leave off work was really nice to be able to get some last minute things prepped as well. My mom, my sister, and my best friend threw me a lovely small, COVID style, backyard baby shower. It was perfect. It was complete with Disney and popsicles, which are two of my favorite things, and I felt so loved and blessed by the people that were there blessing these babies. As the date for my C-section approached, I started to make really long to-do lists and was starting to get really stressed as I couldn't complete them. I would do a few things first thing in the morning, and by the time my body caught up with me, I was exhausted. So like by 10 o'clock a.m. I was exhausted and I wouldn't be able to finish things. But I have an amazing husband, and John helped me prioritize what needed to get done, and we were able to fill the freezer with freezer meals. We had like 3 months worth of freezer meals. We had people lined up to take care of our animals, our house, and our garden. The house was spotless. The nursery was finished, decorated, designed. All of the clothing was washed. Everything was ready to bring these babies home. I had all of the laundry done. I had a hospital bag packed for John, one for the babies and one for myself, as well as a bag full of snacks and a big tote box in case we ended up at the NICU and needed things for a little longer. The last week, right before our delivery, felt like an eternity, but I was so happy to have most of the things done so I could relax and sleep. On August 13th, we headed down for our C-section. We drove over an hour to get there, and that is where this vlog ends. I will share more about my C-section, my recovery, postpartum, and the NICU stay and early newborn days in a separate video. So if you want to see it, stay tuned. Also, if you have any questions, leave them down below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and comment down below for more videos. Also, make sure to subscribe to me on Instagram. My link will be down below, and we'll see you next week for more Lowen Lifestyle. Thanks.